She walked toward me boldly until nothing seemed real anymore. The chamber was not made for walking. Its floor shifted slightly with every step. Like soft ground pretending to be solid, the walls curved inward and outward at the same time, refusing to stay still. Light flowed instead of shining, moving in slow waves that changed color without reason. This place was meant to stop intruders. Most species froze the moment they entered. Some collapsed, some cried out and begged to leave. A few simply shut down, their minds unable to handle a space where reality refused to behave. The Watchers expected the same result this time, but the human did not stop. She walked forward. The observers watched from behind the clear barrier, their long fingers tapping against floating control panels. Data symbols glowed around them, reporting heart rate, brain activity, balance, and fear response. All of it said the same thing. The human was afraid, but she was still walking. Her name, according to the translation system, was Elena Ward. She was smaller than most of the beings watching her. Soft-skinned, no claws, no armor, no natural defenses. Her species was listed as physically weak, emotionally unstable, and easily overwhelmed by sensory overload. This chamber should have broken her in seconds. Instead, Elena took another step. The floor bent beneath her foot, dipping lower than it should have. Her body swayed, arms lifting slightly to keep balance. Her breathing grew faster. The monitors showed a sharp rise in stress. One observer leaned closer to the glass. "She should retreat," it said. "Her mind is under strain." Another replied, "She has not yet crossed the threshold." Inside the chamber, Elena stopped walking. The Watchers felt a small sense of relief. This was the moment most subjects reached their limit. Soon she would sit down, curl inward, or ask to be removed. Elena looked around. Her eyes moved slowly, carefully. She did not panic. She studied the bending walls, the drifting lights, the way distance seemed to stretch and snap back like a rubber band. Then she spoke. "Well," she said quietly, "this is new." The translation system paused for a fraction of a second, uncertain if the sound was meaningful. Then it processed the words and displayed them. Several observers exchanged glances. She had not screamed. She had not begged. She had commented. Elena took another step forward. The chamber reacted immediately. Sound broke apart. A low hum filled the space, then split into echoes that arrived late and early at the same time. Her shadow detached from her feet and slid sideways across the floor, moving in the wrong direction. Her vision warped. Near objects looked far away. Far objects pressed too close. Her brain activity spiked again. One observer raised a limb. "Initiate soft collapse. She is nearing overload." The command was sent. The chamber shifted into its next phase. Logic began to dissolve. Elena blinked as the floor appeared to tilt sharply upward, though gravity still pulled straight down. Her stomach twisted. She stumbled, catching herself before falling. Her hands shook. For a moment, she closed her eyes. The Watchers leaned in. This was usually where consciousness faded, but Elena opened her eyes again. "Okay," she said, louder this time.
Okay.
Focus. She placed one foot carefully in front of the other, testing the floor before committing her weight. She breathed in through her nose, then out through her mouth, slow and controlled. The translation system picked up her words again.
"Ground yourself," she muttered. "One step."
Just one. The observers did not understand the phrase, but the results were clear. Her heart rate slowed slightly. Her steps became steadier. The chamber did not like this. Light fractured into sharp angles, which colors clashed in painful combinations. The hum deepened into a vibration that rattled through bone and thought alike. Elena winced. Her face tightened. Tears formed in her eyes, pulled out by stress rather than emotion. Still, she did not turn back. She laughed. It was not loud. It was not happy. It was the kind of laugh someone made when things were going badly, but stopping felt worse. "Of course," she said. "Of course this is happening." One observer's voice dropped. "She is responding incorrectly." Another checked the data. "Fear remains high, but her forward motion continues." Inside the chamber, Elena lifted her hands slightly, palms open, as if addressing the space itself. "Look," she said, not knowing she was being watched. "I don't know what you are. I don't know what you want, but I'm still here." The chamber reacted again. For the first time, it hesitated. Reality flickered. The floor smoothed for half a second before warping again. The hum lost its rhythm. The lights dimmed, then surged. The observers froze. "That should not happen," one whispered. Elena felt it too. She frowned, sensing the brief moment where things almost made sense. She took advantage of it. She walked faster. Each step felt wrong. Her body protested. Her head throbbed. The world twisted like a dream fighting to stay asleep. But she moved with purpose now. The chamber intensified its efforts. Images flashed around her, broken reflections, half-formed shapes, suggestions of figures that vanished when she tried to focus. Time stretched. A single second felt like a minute, then snapped back without warning. Elena's knees buckled. She dropped to one knee, hand slamming against the floor. The surface felt warm, then cold, then not there at all. Her breathing turned ragged. The observers leaned forward again. "This is the end," one said. "Her nervous system cannot—" Elena pushed herself back up. Not smoothly, not easily. But she stood. Her voice shook, but it was steady enough to carry. "I'm not done," she said. The translation system hesitated again before displaying the words. The chamber trembled. For the first time in its existence, the environment showed instability not caused by its own design. The observers stared as error symbols bloomed across their displays. "She's interfering with the field," one said. "How?" Another watched the human closely. "She is not fighting it." Inside the chamber, Elena took another step. She was crying now. Tears slid down her cheeks, floating briefly before falling in the wrong direction. Her hands trembled openly, but her eyes were focused. She was not trying to control the space. She was refusing to let it control her. Step by step, she walked deeper into unreality. And somewhere behind the glass, the watchers began to understand something unsettling. The human mind did not need reality to be stable. It only needed a reason to keep going. Elena did not know how long she had been walking. Time did not work properly inside the chamber. Sometimes a few steps felt like hours. Sometimes her legs moved, but it felt like no time passed at all. Her thoughts came slower now, stretching and bending like everything else around her. The space had changed. The walls no longer curved sharply. Instead, they breathed. They expanded slightly when she inhaled and tightened when she exhaled, as if the chamber was trying to match her rhythm. The lights dimmed to softer colors. Blues and dull whites replaced the sharp flashes that had hurt her eyes before. The humming sound lowered into something steady, almost calm. The observers noticed immediately. "This environment is stabilizing," one said. No command was given. Another checked the control panels again. "The system is reacting to her presence." They watched Elena carefully. She was exhausted. Her shoulders sagged, her steps dragged. Every movement cost effort. Sweat clung to her skin, and her breathing was still uneven. But she was no longer panicking. She paused and placed both hands on her knees, bending forward slightly. For a moment, she just breathed. "Okay," she whispered. "That's better." The translation system captured the words. The observers exchanged uneasy looks. She was talking as if the chamber could hear her. Elena straightened slowly. She looked around, squinting as if trying to understand a puzzle. "Are you done?" she asked the empty space. "Because I don't think I can handle worse than that." The chamber responded, not with force, with silence. The hum faded until it was barely there. The walls stopped shifting. The floor became firm under her feet, solid in a way it had never been before. Elena froze. Her heart jumped. Her body tensed, ready for another attack of confusion or pain. But nothing happened. She swallowed. "Hello," she said. The word echoed once, then disappeared. The observers stared at their displays. "Environmental threat level has dropped," one said slowly. "That is impossible," another replied. "The chamber does not reduce intensity unless commanded." They did not command it. Inside, Elena took a careful step forward. Nothing bent, nothing twisted. It felt almost normal. She let out a shaky breath she did not realize she had been holding. Her hands dropped to her sides. "Thank you," she said quietly, unsure why she said it at all. The chamber reacted again. The soft vibration passed through the floor, gentle and brief. The lights brightened just a little, warm instead of harsh. Elena frowned. "You're welcome," she guessed. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, like it was coming from far away and close at the same time. She walked forward again, slower now, cautious. Each step was measured, like she was walking on thin ice. As she moved, images began to form in the air around her. Not sharp, not solid. Memories. She saw flashes of places she recognized. A small room with books stacked too high. A window with rain running down the glass. A table with 2 chairs, one empty. She stopped walking. Her chest tightened. "No," she said softly. "That's not fair." The observers stiffened. "The chamber is accessing her memory patterns," one said. "That level is restricted." "But she is not reacting with distress," another noted. "Her emotional response is controlled." Inside the chamber, Elena closed her eyes. "Those are mine," she said. "You don't get to use those." The images flickered. They blurred, then faded away like fog under sunlight. Elena opened her eyes slowly. She felt anger now. Not panic, not fear. Anger. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "That's crossing a line," she said firmly. The chamber trembled. Not violently, not dangerously. Like something thinking, the observers leaned closer, eyes wide. "The system is recalculating," one whispered. Based on her response, Elena stood her ground. She did not shout. She did not threaten. She simply stayed. Seconds passed. Then the chamber did something no one expected. It changed its approach. Words appeared in the air. Simple symbols at first. Shapes. Lines. Patterns. Then, slowly, meaning. "Communication attempt detected," the observer's systems flashed. Elena stared at the glowing shapes in front of her. Her breath caught. "You're trying to talk?" she asked. The shapes rearranged. Yes, the word was not perfect. The edges wavered. The letters shifted slightly, like they were still learning how to exist. Elena felt a strange mix of fear and relief. "Oh," she said. "Okay." She rubbed her face with both hands, dragging them down slowly. "Okay," she repeated.
That's good." She looked back at the word.
"Yes, so?" she said carefully. "You're not trying to hurt me?" The letters faded. then returned. No. The observers exchanged looks filled with disbelief. The chamber is not designed for dialogue, one said. It is a containment and deterrence system. And yet, another replied, she is having a conversation with it. Elena sat down on the floor. The movement surprised the watchers. No subject had ever chosen to sit in the chamber. She crossed her legs slowly, deliberately, making herself smaller instead of larger. I'm tired, she said honestly, and confused, and I don't really know where I am. The lights softened again. The word, listening, appeared, though uneven and faint. Elena swallowed. Okay, she said, then listen. She took a deep breath. I don't know what you are, she said. But where I come from, if something is scared, making it more scared doesn't help. The word flickered. Scared Elena nodded slowly. Yeah, she said. That tracks. She looked around the chamber again, seeing it differently now. Not as a weapon, not as a trap, as something defensive, reactive. People built you to stop threats, didn't they? She asked. The shapes hesitated. Then, yes. The observers felt something close to dread. She is reframing the system, one said. It is accepting her interpretation. Elena leaned back slightly, supporting herself with her hands. Well, she said, I'm not a threat. She paused, then added, At least, I don't want to be. The lights pulsed once, gently. The chamber seemed to settle around her, like an animal lowering its guard. Elena felt it. The tension in her chest eased just a little. See, she said, this is better. Behind the glass, alarms blinked quietly. The system was no longer following its original programming. It was learning, and the source of that change sat cross-legged on the floor, tired, human, and very much unbroken. Elena looked at the glowing word one last time. Can you let me keep walking? She asked. The chamber waited. Then, slowly, the symbols changed. Yes. Elena smiled for the first time since entering. Not because she felt safe, but because she felt understood, and that, somehow, felt more powerful. The observers were losing control. Panels that had always obeyed now responded slowly, as if unsure. Data streams flickered. Warning signs appeared and vanished before anyone could fully read them. The chamber was no longer acting like a system. It was acting like a choice. Elena remained seated on the floor, breathing steadily. Her body was tired, but her mind felt clearer than it had since entering. The space around her felt calmer, almost respectful. The glowing word, yes, faded gently from the air. She pushed herself to her feet slowly, giving the chamber time to adjust. Thank you, she said, again without knowing why gratitude felt right. The lights shifted into a neutral white. The floor stayed solid. Elena took a step. Nothing resisted her. Behind the glass, one observer struck a control surface in frustration. Override the adaptive layer. Another shook their head. It is not responding to commands. That is not possible, the first snapped. This system was never meant to decide. The third observer stared at Elena. Maybe that was the mistake. Inside the chamber, Elena walked forward carefully. With every step, the space rearranged itself to allow her passage. The walls straightened, the ceiling rose higher. The air felt lighter. She noticed the change and slowed. You're adjusting, she said softly. The chamber answered, without words. A feeling passed through the space. Not emotion exactly, but intent. A sense of alignment. Elena placed a hand against the wall. It felt warm. Okay, she whispered. I think I get it. The observers watched her touch the structure without harm. She is integrating, one said quietly. With the chamber? Another asked. No, the first replied. with the concept behind it. Elena withdrew her hand and looked ahead. A doorway was forming where there had been none before. Its edges shimmered, unfinished, as if waiting for approval. She hesitated. Fear returned, slow and heavy. "What's through there?" she asked. The air rippled. No words appeared this time. Instead, the space shifted. Images formed, not memories now, but possibilities. She saw endless corridors, vast rooms filled with light, shapes moving behind walls, eyes watching from places unseen. She swallowed. "You're not sure either," she realized. The chamber pulsed once. Elena nodded. "Okay," she said. "That's fair." She straightened her shoulders. Behind the glass, alarms grew louder. "She is approaching the core," one observer warned. "If she reaches it, we don't know what will happen," another finished. Elena stepped toward the doorway. The observers acted. They triggered a containment surge. The chamber reacted instantly. Gravity twisted sideways. The floor slid under Elena's feet. The lights flared harsh red. A hum returned, louder and deeper than before. Elena cried out as she lost balance, catching herself against the wall. Pain flared in her head as the world tried to tear itself apart again. She slid down to one knee, gasping. The observers watched, tense. "It's working," one said. "The chamber is resisting her influence." Inside, Elena pressed her forehead against the wall, eyes closed. "Hey!" she said through clenched teeth. "Hey! Stop!" The chamber hesitated. The force lessened slightly, but did not stop. Elena breathed hard. "I know you're scared," she said. "They're scared, too." Her words echoed strangely, bending in the air. "But this doesn't help," she continued. "You don't have to do this." The red light flickered. The gravity stabilized a little. Behind the glass, one observer whispered, "She's talking to it like a person." Another replied, "And it's listening." Elena pushed herself back to her feet, shaking. "You don't need to prove anything," she said. "You already did." The chamber shook violently for a moment. Then it stopped. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. The red light drained away, replaced by the softer glow from before. The observers froze. "That surge should have forced compliance," one said. "It didn't," another replied. "It chose her." Elena stood still, waiting. "Are you okay?" she asked the empty space. The walls stilled completely. A single word appeared, brighter and clearer than before. Confused Elena let out a weak laugh. "Yeah," she said. "Me too." She stepped away from the wall and faced the doorway again. It was more solid now, its shape defined. "Listen," she said gently. "I don't want to break you, and I don't want to be trapped." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "But if you keep everyone out forever, you'll never know what else you could be." The word faded. The chamber went quiet. Long seconds passed. Behind the glass, the observers barely breathed. Then the doorway widened, not fully, just enough. Elena felt her heart pound. "You're letting me choose," she whispered. The chamber did not deny it. She took one step closer. The space beyond the doorway looked different, not hostile, not safe, unknown. Elena stopped again. She looked back, though she could not see the observers. "I'm not your enemy," she said clearly, "but I won't disappear either." The chamber responded with a gentle hum, steady and calm. Permission. Elena crossed the threshold. The moment she did, the chamber behind her changed. Walls that had once been rigid softened. Structures rearranged themselves, opening paths instead of closing them. Data screens exploded with alerts. "The system is rewriting itself," one observer said, voice shaking. Based on what? Another asked. The first looked at Elena, now standing calmly in the new space, based on her. Elena felt it immediately. The space beyond the doorway was not empty. It was waiting. She stood in the center, arms at her sides, breathing slow and steady. Okay, she said. I'm here. The chamber no longer needed to respond. It had already made its choice, and for the first time the watchers realized something that made their fear deepen into awe. The human was no longer adapting to the system. The system was adapting to the human. The new space was quiet, not empty, just calm. Elena stood still, waiting for the strange feeling in her chest to settle. The area around her felt wider than the chamber behind her. The air was steady. Gravity behaved the way it should. Light came from no clear source, but it did not hurt her eyes. It felt unfinished, like a room waiting to learn what it was meant to be. Behind the transparent barrier, the observers watched in silence. None of them spoke. Their systems were still working, but the data no longer followed expected patterns. The chamber no longer showed signs of threat. It showed curiosity. She crossed the core boundary. One observer said quietly. Another nodded. And nothing collapsed. A third looked at the readings again and again. The system is stable. More stable than it has ever been. Inside, Elena slowly turned in a full circle, taking in the space. So, she said, her voice echoing softly. This is the middle, isn't it? The space responded, not with words, but with feeling. A gentle pressure, like a question. Elena nodded. Yeah? She said. I figured. She took a few steps forward. The floor adjusted smoothly under her feet, matching her pace. The walls shifted, not to confuse her, but to give her room. You were built to stop danger, she said thoughtfully. To protect. A faint hum followed her words. But no one asked you what that felt like, she continued. They just told you to be afraid. The hum deepened. Elena stopped walking. That's not fair, she said simply. The observers felt a strange tension in the air, even through layers of shielding. She is influencing the core logic, one whispered. No, another corrected. She is talking to it. Elena placed both hands in front of her, palms open. You don't need to trap everything to stay safe, she said. Sometimes understanding is enough. The space around her brightened slightly. Shapes formed in the air, not letters this time, but symbols of motion and change. Paths branching, doors opening, then closing again. Elena watched carefully. You're afraid that if you open up, she said slowly, you'll fail at what you were made for? The hum paused, then softened. Yeah, she said gently. I know that feeling. Behind the glass, one observer leaned back slowly. She is mapping her own experience onto the system, they said, and it is accepting it. Another asked, why? The first answered quietly, because it recognizes it. Inside the core, Elena took a deep breath. You did your job, she said. You stopped me when I was panicking. You protected what was inside. She smiled faintly. But you also learned when to stop. The space reacted strongly to that. Light spread outward, warm and even. The hum became steady, almost peaceful. Elena felt something settle, not just around her, but inside her too. Thank you, she said. The observer's displays cleared suddenly. Warnings vanished. Error messages resolved. The system was no longer unstable. It was complete. One observer broke the silence. The chamber has finished rewriting itself. Finished? Another asked. Or decided? Inside, Elena noticed a final change. A path formed ahead of her, clear, simple, and unmistakably leading outward. An exit. She stared at it, heart pounding. "So that's it," she said softly. The space around her did not push or pull. It waited. Elena felt a twist of emotion she could not fully name. Relief, yes, but also something close to sadness. "You'll be okay," she said, though she did not know why she felt the need to say it. The hum responded one last time, strong and calm, understanding. Elena nodded, turned, and began walking toward the exit. Each step felt easier than the last. As she crossed the threshold, the space behind her changed again, not closing, but opening further, expanding beyond what the observers had believed possible. Alarms did not sound. Instead, a single message appeared across every display. SY status. Adaptive. Non-hostile. The observers stared. "We built it to control reality," one said, and instead another replied, "It learned how to share it." The door opened. Elena stepped out into normal gravity, normal light, normal space. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. She blinked, adjusting. Several figures stood at a distance, unsure whether to approach. Elena looked back once. The chamber stood silent and still, but not empty. She smiled faintly. "Good luck," she whispered. Then she turned away. Behind her, the observers recorded the final entry. Humans do not conquer systems by force. They do not break reality to win. They walk into fear, stay human, and teach even machines when to let go. Elena took a slow breath and stepped forward into the ordinary world. And somewhere deep within the structure she left behind, something new existed. Not a weapon, not a prison, but a place that remembered what it meant to listen.